What's up, fam? It's Brian Castro. I just watched episode 6 of The Last of Us, and this is entitled Kin. And god damn it, you guys, they did it again. They had us in an emotional, stupor. This episode was. I'm not crying, you're crying, but let's go back to last one when we lost, Sam and Henry. How emotional was that when, he had to shoot his own son to save Ellie, and then he ended up shooting himself. Incredibly emotional, and I was heartbroken on that scene. So now we start 3 months later, and we are in Colorado. It's snowing out. It's cold, incredibly beautiful. But we start the scene with a Native American couple that Joel is interrogating, and I believe this is a scene from the game. And they eventually tell them, your brother is more than likely out west, but if you go there, past the river, you're just gonna get death. And we recommend you go east. But Joel and Ellie are like, nah, we're going anyways. Who cares about the river of death? As you watch this episode, she's always constantly joking about it. But as they start on their journey, you're seeing some of the most gorgeous cinematography, some of the most beautiful scenes that you're going to see in an episode of any show or movie. It was absolutely beautiful. It makes me want to visit Colorado. There's a scene where you got Ellie and she's staring up at the Aurora Borealis, which that is I have to see that sometime in person, preferably in Alaska, but it was just mesmerizing. And then they have a bonfire. They're starting to connect. They're really starting to get closer, and you can see their relationship getting stronger as it goes on. And Ellie asked Joel, can I have a sip of the alcohol that he was drinking? He had his little canteen thing. I forget what those are called, and she's like, come on, it'll help me get warm. And Joel reluctantly allows her, and they're talking about the future, where they're going to go after they get to where they're going. And you can tell Joel is getting closer. Ellie already looks to him as, sort of a parental figure, or at least she looks up to him at this point. But you can see the relationship that they have developing and getting stronger. But then they continue on, and they get stopped by a group of people on horseback, and the guy comes out, and he's telling drop your weapon, and he tells Ellie to scoot back. And they have this dog that basically says if you are infected, he's gonna rip you to shreds. And he smells Joel's fine, and of course we all know what Ellie has now. She is immune, or we know she's been bitten, and you can see effects of the bite, but she's not turning. So this dog comes up and sniffs her, and eventually, nothing happens. And I'm thinking, like, this dog has. Now, granted, this isn't reality, but a dog's sense of smell is incredibly strong, especially in some dogs. And it made me wonder, like, if this dog has this ability to sniff this out, because there's actually cases I think I've read where they can actually smell patients who have cancer or different, but a sense of smell in a dog is incredible. And it made me wonder, like, even though Ellie is not being affected or turning, why did this dog not smell what he was trained to smell? And that's a major question that I have in this episode is, why didn't that dog notice that? Maybe some of you who have played the game might have a better answer for me, but I thought that was kind of odd. And then all of a sudden, you see Rutina Wesley, who plays Marie in this episode, and I'm sitting over here like a Leonardo DiCaprio meme, like pointing at the screen, because I know her as Jocelyn from The Walking Dead, of course, in that big episode with Michonne, which, by the way, Michonne and Rick's episode, from what I'm seeing online, they're already starting to film, and I'm excited for that. But I also know her from True Blood, where she played Tara Thornton, and I love her as an actress, and she was amazing in this episode as well. But she basically takes Joel's gun, and she brings him over to this camp, which when you get in there, I'm forgetting what there's a show, I can't even remember the name of it. It's it's leaving me right now, but there was a show, and maybe those who are watching, that took place in Colorado where this kind of town reminded me of, and I was just thinking about this show, but for the life of me, I can't think of the name at the moment. But they have running water, they have lights, they have basically everything that a normal town would have, because Maria was able to get one of the water dam to create electricity for that town, but she cut off all radio, or she basically tells everybody not to contact radio. And they have this town that is they keep quiet on the radio, so no one knows where they are. And they have this council similar to like The Walking Dead did with most recently, where they had their council, which had Michonne, Father Gabriel, and everybody else who was on it. They have something similar where they kind of decide what's going on in this town. But impressive that this town is able to, do the stuff that it has. You see sheep and other livestock. Just considering the rest of the world that has fallen apart, and you got this working town like it's the Commonwealth in The Walking Dead. They literally have everything. But they come into the town, and they're walking through, and Joel sees Tommy, and immediately he's emotional. Tommy comes down, and they hug in this big emotional scene, and things are starting to, but I noticed the look on Ellie's face. She almost seemed like she was sad, but I think that was because she feels that she don't have that connection with Tommy, and I think she's thinking that she's going to lose Joel at this point, because she really is, because Joel is all she has. That's all she's known. And then throughout this episode, Joel eventually has an argument with his brother Tommy. And one of the things that he does, which kind of, confused me, he lied about Tess, about her well-being. Eventually he does tell her, what happens, and this argument brings up a lot of trauma with Joel's daughter. And Tommy actually made a memorial for Joel's daughter and his own, which he had lost. We also find out that Joel is going to be a father, not Joel, but Tommy is going to be a father with Maria, and she's a few months pregnant. And this argument just was kind of starting to break them apart. And this is building on the emotion in this episode, which was absolutely fantastic. I give this episode a 9 out of 10. The acting was brilliant in this. And actually, one of my favorite scenes that happened before this is when Ellie, she gets to have like a normal meal, and just the humor that's coming out of her, where she just doesn't give a fuck, and she is sarcastic towards Maria, and it's just funny. You gotta, if you haven't seen this, if you've seen the scene, you know what I'm talking about. But eventually, actually, we come and we see that Maria has takes Ellie over to her house, and that's where you see the memorial that Tommy has made. And she's cutting her hair, and she's trying to get close to her, and she starts to warn Joel about, warn Ellie about who Joel is. But of course, Ellie knows this already, and she's just basically saying that the ones you trust are going to be the ones that hurt you the most. So again, building on what's coming. And then, Tommy and Joel, eventually they start to make up, and Tommy apologizes for what he said about his daughter. And this is where you see Pedro Pascal, who playing Joel, gets incredibly emotional, and he realizes that he doesn't want Ellie to get hurt, and he's talking about how, he's not the same as when he was with the Fireflies doing what he's doing, and he's talking about how he just froze there, similar to like with his daughter when the dog was there and he couldn't do nothing. And you see the tears coming down his eyes, and he's just heartbreaking. He asked Tommy to take her for him, and this is where you realize that Joel is starting to care for her and as like his own daughter. And then he eventually he goes to see Ellie, and they have a falling out, and they're arguing, and Joel is basically trying to pretend like he doesn't care, when Ellie's telling him that, I have nobody. If I go with your brother, I'm going to be scared, and she's basically telling him that he is her family, but he acts like he don't care. And at dawn, they're going to go their separate ways. Eventually, it comes to the point where Joel is kind of breaking down, and he tells her, I just want you to have the best possible chance of survival, but I'm going to give you a choice. You can go with Tommy, or you can come with me. And she chooses Joel. And I think at that moment they realize how much they're family, and how much they care for each other, and that she's no longer cargo to him. But oh my, that whole sequence was just heartwarming and heartbreaking, just watching them go through the motions of growing stronger relationships, and seeing how Joel, he's trying to protect her, but is trying not to show his feelings, but he only shows it to his brother, but eventually he breaks down. And then they eventually go on their way, and they come across this university where they see monkeys. And this is a university where, where they were supposed to meet the fireflies. They're, doing biochemical studies and stuff. And these monkeys have escaped. And I'm immediately wondering, are these monkeys infected? Because a lot of times, animals such as monkeys were tested on. And if you look into some of the other zombie genres out there, monkeys were a big thing. So immediately I'm worried that, this monkey's going to attack, and they're going to bite them, and they're going to be sick. I don't know if they play a bigger role in the game, but they go through the university. They're looking for these doctors, and they find that they were there, but and maybe some of them are still around, but the most interesting part is they come into this room where they have this board, and you have this map where looks like at least some of them went to Salt Lake City, but they also notice there's some guys coming, along the side. But on this board, I was trying to pause it, but I kept getting blurred images on my TV screen, and it was hard. I saw I'm forgetting the name right now, but there was someone on channel 2, so I don't know if that person's going to come into play later on. And on the left side, it was talking about our newest info, and I was trying to read what it was saying, but if you guys were able to get a good frame, there's got to be some good information on there. And those of you who played the game probably know that. And this is why I got to play the game, because I'm willing to bet you can go up and look at this board if this is in the game and see some of the different things that it's pointing to. But again, I'm coming from the perspective of completely fresh and never played the game, but that board was incredibly interesting to me, and just the different points of reference. Looks like we're going to Salt Lake City, but Joel notices these guys, and they try and get back to the horse in time, but one of the guys comes up, and they get into a fight, and we find out later that Joel got stabbed with a shiv, and the other 3 guys are still coming, because there was a total of 4, and Ellie manages to get him on the horse. They're walking away, and then Joel falls off, and that's how we end the episode. Are you really going to do that to us, Joel? And he's not waking up. There's no way that this is how this ends. There's got to be more to it. I'm just not accepting this. It better not be. But what did you guys think about this episode? I enjoyed it. The acting was brilliant. It was good to see Tommy again. Love the fact that Rutina Wesley was in here. Of course, I know her from True Blood and The Walking Dead. But the The biggest questions I had was, you know, why did Joel lie to Tess about Tommy initially before they got into their argument? I thought that was interesting. Um, it seems like maybe he didn't trust him. Why didn't the dog notice the virus, or the, not the virus, but the cordyceps that's obviously, there's got to be some of that in Ellie. Why didn't the dog notice that? Dogs are incredibly intelligent, and their sense of smell is ridiculous. I don't understand why the dog did not pick up that scent, even though it's not turning her. When you look at the arm, there's clearly some remnants of that in there. But those of you who played the game could probably explain a little better. And of course, that board that I talked about, there's got to be more. There's got to be something to that. And the monkeys. I want to know, are the monkeys important in the game? But yeah, I love this episode. Looks like we only got 3 more left. I'm not ready for the way that ended. That cannot be how it ended. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'll see you on the next episode. Love you guys. Till next episode.